All right, fifth graders, we are going to be working on comparing and contrasting stories within the same genre. So, the genre of these two stories that you're going to be reading today is that they are both fairy tales. So, you're going to listen to me read or read it to yourself. And then this Venn diagram is going to be posted and it's going to be typable for you. So, you're going to type one in each of these bubbles, a similarity for the both between the two. You're going to have three similarities. That's where the circles overlap. And then how fairy tale 2 is different than fairy tale 1. So as I'm reading, I want you to think, what could you add to your Venn diagram? And that Venn diagram is a separate Google drawings that you will be working on. All right, so I will start with fairy tale number 1. Long ago in the land now known as Canada, there lived two native children, a sister and a brother. They were orphans and had to care for themselves. This was especially difficult since the boy never grew bigger than a baby, no matter how old he got. The sister loved her brother very much, and she made a bow and arrow specially for him to shoot. He learned to hunt wild snowbirds for food, and soon he had enough bird skins to make himself a coat. It was a fine coat, and the boy wore it with pride. One day the boy asked his sister, "Are there other people in the world? Mother told stories of people just like us, but I've never seen them." For as long as they had been on their own, the girl and the boy had never met another soul. "Mother told me the same," said the girl. "She was born to a faraway people who raised her up when she was a girl like me." The boy decided to seek his mother's people. He set off for his journey wearing his beloved coat of bird skins, but the sun was high and hot, and the boy's coat began to shrink. Soon it was so tight that when the boy moved, the coat tore into pieces. "I'll get you for this, son," said the boy. His sister fashioned a snare out of her lock of long, strong hair, and the boy snuck out before dawn to trap the sun. He placed the snare at the point of the horizon where the sun would rise and sat down to wait. Sure enough, as the sun began to rise, it was caught in the boy's trap. "Who will free me from my bindings?" the sun implored the world's animals. First Woodpecker tried, but its head grew red from the heat. To this day, woodpeckers have red heads. Finally, the task fell to Mouse, who was the biggest and strongest creature of them all. The mouse began to gnaw at the snare, and slowly, hair by hair, the mouse began to cut through it. Though its back was singed to ash, the mouse kept at its task. Finally, the mouse freed the sun from its bondage, then not before the heat shrunk it to a fraction of its former size. When it began its task, the mouse was the largest of all the animals. By the time it finished, it was the smallest. To this day, the mouse remains one of the tiniest animals, and its coat is still the color of ashes. So, that is story number 1. So, it's about a little boy that went to go find people, and he got really hot, so he put his coat or placed the snare on the sun, and these animals tried to free the sun, and some different things happened to them. Now we're going to read fairy tale number 2 and see how they're the same and how they're different. It says, once upon a time, before the continent of Europe was given that name, there lived a couple who had no children. They wished every day for a child, even if it were no bigger than a hazelnut. At last their wish was granted, and they had a child who was the size of a hazelnut, just as they had said. They loved the child very much, and they took excellent care of him. When the hazelnut child turned 15, his parents asked what he would become, as he was of an age to work. "I would like to be a messenger," said the child. His mother laughed and asked, "How can you possibly be a messenger? Your tiny feet would take an hour to carry you the distance anyone else could cover in a minute." "Give me a message to carry," said the boy, "and see how quickly I return." So his mother told him to go to the house of his aunt in the neighboring village and bring back a comb. "I'll be back before you know," said the boy. His mother held the front door open for her son, and off he went on his journey. He found a man on horseback who was headed for the next town. The boy crept up the horse's leg, crawled under the saddle, and began to pinch the horse's back. Rearing up, the horse took off at a breakneck speed and wouldn't slow down, no matter how hard the rider pulled at its reins. When they reached the neighboring village, the hazelnut child quit pinching the horse, and it slowed enough that the boy was able to climb down its leg. His aunt was delighted to see him and gave him the comb he asked for. The hazelnut child returned on the back of another horse and presented his mother with the comb. "But how did you get home so quickly?" she asked. He did not answer her question, but only said, "You see, I told you the messenger was the profession for me." Using his newfound skill, the hazelnut child hitched a ride with a stork that was flying south for the winter and landed in a faraway country. There he met the king, who was astonished at this tiny creature who rode storks as if they were horses. The king was so taken with the hazelnut child that he gave the boy a diamond bigger than himself. The boy hitched the diamond to a stork and flew home, and he and his parents lived in peace and prosperity for the rest of their lives. So, Now that we've read these stories, let's see if we can come up with some similarities between the two. Well, they both have a boy as a main character, is something that I noticed. They also have someone who's trying to solve a problem in both stories. Additionally, they both have animals in the story. Now you can come up with a lot of differences between these stories. You're just going to click on the Google Drawing, double click on each line, and there's a text box that you should be able to type the similarities and differences. If you're struggling to come up with some, just let me know and I will love to help you.